And now I'd like to offer the floor to the distinguished representative of Mexico, speaking on behalf of her country and Peru.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. I'm making this statement on behalf of Peru and Mexico. The panelists' briefings and the statements made by member states reflect clearly the Mexican and Peruvian concern that's shared with the international community with regard to the complex nature of urban development and how it's related to various elements of national development. As has been said in this meeting, the sustainable nature of urban areas and transport must be dealt with together in order to have integrated plans of actions. We've seen the rapid growth in the rate of greenhouse gas emissions, and particularly emissions by transport throughout the world, and the growth in the number of vehicles and the importance of the use of cars. However, as Mr. John Kloss has said, this has not been a spontaneous, inevitable, irreversible process with regard to transport, but it has been the result of a specific model of urban development which has been based on decisions made by the public and private sector. One of the trends that we are seeing in the model of urban development throughout the world is the separation of populations between areas of housing and work. And there's been, therefore, an increase in the number of travel and the distances traveled. And we've seen this in urban growth. We've seen the development, on the one hand, of the worsening of these the central urban areas, and the growth of suburban areas, which use the land in a more intensive nature. We've seen the growth of mega cities, and this has affected the provision of services, particular investment in mass transit systems, and also the development of pedestrian areas, which provide an alternative to the use of the car. The promotion of multi-use of land is being promoted, and this is based on a policy that promotes sustainable urban transport. This is just some of the examples of the links that exist here, and emphasizes the need for the sustainable development goals that are being developed to meet the urban and transport challenges should reflect integrated issues and not just standalone issues. On the basis of this, we must emphasizing sustainable urban transport so that we have more equitable cities that are more safe and where people can live well. This must be based on accessibility to transport. But this should not be limited to the environmental issue. We must also see the way this affects other elements of urban development. Mass transport is affected by a number of factors which are specific to each country, such as the way cities are managed, the consumption and the production and consumption models, levels of income, and others. What must be dealt with through our goals is something which must be applicable both in developed and developing countries. To act on these issues, we must take into account the work that has been done by the actors in the various sectors in various countries, to embrace the diversity of the conditions existing in various countries. This is the case in the Warsaw Statement on Transport and Sustainable Development. This was submitted officially to the Secretary General under the United Nations Convention on Climate Change in November 2013. This reasserts the commitment to support the implementation of land transport, which is more sustainable and low in carbon. We recognize the importance of breaking with this paradigm that exists. We must reduce the use of vehicles. And in place of this, we must facilitate access of people to goods, services, and urban infrastructure. It's necessary to enhance the commitments by developing countries to reduce emissions in the transport sector and support efforts that are being made in developing countries which are in line with sustainable urban development strategies. There are various governments that have made the first steps in order to implement urban mobility strategies that are sustainable, ensure the quality, accessibility, and affordability of mass transit. We must implement global measures that are based on technical criteria which involve the various stakeholders in order to implement and ensure best conditions for sustainable urban mobility. If this working group supports the idea of including transport as part of the Sustainable Development Goals, then we must establish goals which ensure that countries give priority to actions to ensure that adequate strategies are implemented with the necessary funding and the necessary institutions and governance strategies to ensure that urban travel takes place in a safe and equitable way. Also, we need the active participation of all relevant players who have supported this agenda over many years, and this includes parliaments, local governments, civil society associations, the private sector, and the academic world. Also, we must support complementary measures which are being done in other multilateral forums to reduce emissions. Particularly, we must analyze the elimination of subsidies to fossil energy. And we must assure that we have goals which are aimed at sustainable development, establishing sustainable transport agenda which ensures safe transport opens the door to ensure more productive life, and that use the opportunities that cities provide for. It also would allow to break down the segregation in terms of the use of space and enhance social networks in cities and stimulate productivity and urban competitivity while bringing closer the opportunities for development to a greater number of people. We recognize that in the process of urbanization, an opportunity does exist for our countries. There are challenges in terms of education, public health, safety and security, and overcoming poverty. These can all be approached in a more effective and innovative way in urban areas. Nevertheless, we do recognize also that this opportunity can only be enjoyed in well-planned cities which enjoy a proper infrastructure and best urban infrastructure. And this includes sustainable transport systems. Mexico and Peru reiterate our commitment to establishing multilateral development agenda that support building upon this model of a city which can use the advantages of urbanization. That means a city that is integrated, functional, and lives in coherence with the surrounding areas, and which promotes investments and provides goods and services, that is well organized and functions well, that's culturally attractive, and that is that is also a healthy city in terms of its impact on the environment and resistance to disasters, and that is socially equitable, that can be governed through an effective way and in a participative way, and by ensuring the safety of the citizen. And together with this, offers its people opportunities to ensure a better living standard. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Mexico